I am a doctor and I'm quitting medicine.
Over 40% of doctors regret their career choice.
I really just feel like a failure.
I'm a 33-year-old ENT surgeon and I'm leaving medicine for good.
I left my job as a primary care doctor after nearly 8 years of working for a big hospital system.
GPs in this country are set up to fail.
There's a lot of controversy around this.
The medical industry in the world has changed dramatically, and not in a good way for doctors and healthcare providers.
Don't do it. So I've recently done a video covering how some nurses are not happy with the profession, and it showed the different types of things that they're experiencing in the medical field. And since then, it's been brought to my attention that there are also a lot of physicians that are also not happy. And today I want to go ahead and share some of those stories with you so you could see what doctors are also saying.
So clearly we are not talking enough about how people are leaving medicine. I graduated medical school over 10 years ago, and a couple of my classmates did not go on into residency. And even those who did, a bunch of them no longer practice today. Why do you think we talk so much about physician burnout, how terrible the US healthcare system is, insurance companies, reimbursement cuts, educational debt, how awful the culture of medicine is, especially if you are a female with a family? And I get it, it is shocking and disappointing that these young doctors are not going to continue on and practice medicine. But instead of shaming them or calling them selfish, maybe we need to figure out ways to support them better so they don't feel like they have to give up to have a normal, healthy, fulfilled life.
I quit my job as a surgeon 2 months ago. People have been very fired up, but I'm extremely happy to announce that I am here with my friend Mel, who also quit her job as a surgeon. And hers was like 6 months ago. My name is Frances May Harden. I'm a 33-year-old ENT surgeon, and I'm leaving medicine for good. No one would ever become a doctor with the intention of leaving medicine. We even see this modeled for us where surgeons operate well into their 70s, and even then somebody has to pry the scalpel from their hands. But for me, over the past 10 years in training and in practice, the disillusionment with medicine has been too great for me to stay. All of us know what it's like to be in the wrong situation, the wrong job, the wrong relationship, and so many of us stay really a lot longer than we know we ever should have. Because it's hard, it's scary. And I had an inkling that this was not right for me when I was a junior ENT resident. But the thing is that back then, I was not brave or creative enough to leave. So I just kept my head down and I finished training and went on to become an attending. The thing about becoming a doctor is that by the time that you realize it might not be the right fit for you, you've already put several years, so much time and effort and sacrifice into the career. It's very hard to leave. I'm making this announcement for every person who's ever felt guilty for even for a moment questioning or doubting their profession. And I'm excited to announce that I've changed. I'm brave and creative enough, and so I'm leaving.
After 8 years of being a doctor, and this being the 4th time I've tried to quit, I've given myself until the end of the year to either find my joy in medicine again or finally leave. And each time I try to find my joy, I also realize what I and other doctors have lost in the process. I started posting about the reality of being a GP, the risk management, sleepless nights thinking about the decisions I made for my patients, and I found it so difficult to balance my life outside of medicine. And at that time, I didn't really see anyone else talking about it online, so I decided to post my feelings, hoping that someone else felt this way too. And whilst it resonated with so many people, it also really showed me what the public thought of us doctors. I've had comments saying that we don't actually see any patients, we should be working for free, that we are useless, and saying that we knew what we were getting ourselves into, so I should stop complaining. I've been called pathetic, I've been sworn at, and I've had racist comments left on my page, but I've also had comments just like this said to me in person during my clinic. And I like to think over the years I've developed a pretty thick skin, but I worry for those who are wanting to become doctors or those who are already doing it, reading these comments, probably feeling disheartened and wanting to give up. And no matter how many times I say that GPs in this country are set up to fail, from the time we are given with our patients to the lack of funding and jobs to how the media will portray us as greedy, money-hungry, uncaring medics.
Not to be like dramatic or anything, but when I decided that I wanted to be a doctor, I didn't know what I was signing up for. And becoming a doctor shouldn't break your spirit, you know? You should be able to feel like a person and do this job. But it seems like the system believes that they have to break you in order for you to do this job properly. And I don't think that's true. And I know that I'm privileged to be here and thankful to be here. And maybe eventually it will feel worth it. But right now it doesn't. And when I was in undergrad and I was pre-med and I was applying to medical school, so many doctors told me, don't become a doctor. But you can't tell an ambitious first-generation college student to not go after their dreams. Like, that's not... I was like, whatever. And now I'm like, I get it. I get what they were saying.
I left my job as a primary care doctor after nearly 8 years of working for a big hospital system because I was burnt out. And I want to talk about what burnout is, because it might not be what people think it is. There is an idea that it is just exhaustion, that we're just so tired and we just need a break. We need a vacation. We need a class on resiliency or a wellness workshop, some mindfulness. But to me, that's not what this is. Burnout at its core is a systematic, slow erosion of the person that you thought you were going to be. And that's both professionally and personally. You are always feeling inadequate. When I open my computer at the beginning of the day, I am met with a sea of red where the system tells me of all my failings. I'm not meeting this quality metric. I didn't double check this blood pressure. And no, even though I know that these metrics don't necessarily equate to actually taking better care of the patients, there is something very psychologically demoralizing about feeling like you're never good enough. You're never going to meet these standards. They are set forth to be impossible, so nobody meets them. And to constantly be having meetings where your scores, your metrics are put up on a big screen where you're compared to other providers and being told that you're failing. And it doesn't matter how hard you work, how much schooling you have, and in my opinion, how good of a doctor you are, because someone that maybe doesn't care as much as you do, spends less time with patients, but clicks all the right buttons, has better scores. But also in the same breath, in that meeting, we're being told that we have access issues and we need to decrease patient appointment times and increase your panel sizes. And when you ask, well, what more resources do we get? Oh, you don't get more resources. We're just going to ask the people that are still here to do more. And so nobody stays, everybody leaves. And you feel like you're drowning in quicksand. And there's all these people that are watching you and you're saying, please help me, please throw me a branch, a rope, something. And nobody helps. They have the branches and the ropes and the ability to save you, but they just watch. And so you have to decide, am I going to drown and just let this happen? Or do I fight like hell to get out? And this is me getting out. And this is just one of the aspects of burnout. There are more, and I want to talk about those, but this video is already long enough, so I'm going to stop it here.
A study recently came out that said over 40% of doctors regret their career choice. So I get asked a lot, do I? I don't know. I'm 31, no kids, no spouse, freezing my eggs. The hospital is basically a second home. I owe the government $200,000. You often do your best, and your best is still not enough. There are a lot of enemies in medicine: hospital CEOs, insurance companies, a mistrust in the medical system by many, which is often understandable. I don't know. I feel fulfilled almost every day. When we are able to help someone, it is the best feeling in the world. I love my coworkers who have become my second family in my second home. I've still been able to accomplish many non-medical goals, like climb Mount Kilimanjaro this past summer, and I hope to hit 40 countries traveled to this spring. I don't know. I'm 31. I've done 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 1 master's degree. I'm on year 5 of 7 of my general surgery residency, still staring down a 2-year fellowship. I won't fully be in my job to give an adequate answer until I'm 37. So I don't know, but I hope not.
A day in the life of a doctor who's quitting his job. We typically start the day off with a team-wide meeting. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that medicine is actually a desk job. Probably around 75% of the work we do is in front of the computer, or paperwork, or meetings. I'm not sure if that is part of the reason I felt so burnt out and tired, but it's no question that my professional and personal goals have been misaligned for a long time.
Recently, I've been seeing a lot of physicians and medical content creators talk openly about leaving medicine on this platform. And although it's not something that I want right now, I truly respect them for sharing their opinions on this topic. Like, there's a lot of controversy around this, but this isn't something that's new. It's just something that no one has ever been brave enough to say out loud to other people within that community because they're afraid of being seen as weak, uncommitted, or ungrateful, or for people to think that they just couldn't cut it out in medicine, which is completely untrue. So many reasons why someone might choose to leave medicine, and whether that be the healthcare system that they work in or a change in their values or priorities in their life, all those reasons are valid. I'm a strong believer that medicine is a role and not your entire identity. I really don't see leaving as a form of giving up, but rather a sign of courage and finding yourself, because having the courage to leave is just as powerful as having the discipline to stay.
Do I regret being a pediatrician? No. Do I want to go to work tomorrow? Also no. Do I love my job? Yes. Do I also wish that sometimes I would have loved something else even more and found a different job to love? Also yes. Do I constantly think about other ways to make supplemental income to one day not have to do this as my number one source of income? Yes. Do I love taking care of children and helping parents navigate the difficult aspects of parenting? Yes. Do I wish that I could practice medicine based on my extensive training and evidence-based knowledge and do what I believe is best for the patient, and not based on what insurance companies and big corporations want me to do that will ensure that their pockets are filled? Yes. Am I burnt out as a young physician because I'm lazy and I don't want to work and the patient burden is just too much for me? No. Am I burnt out already as a young physician because the people who run all of healthcare in the United States couldn't care less about the patients or the physicians or other healthcare workers and their mental health, their physical health, their personal time, or anything else for that matter, except for the money that ends up in their pockets? Yes. Will I keep taking care of children for as long as I possibly can? Yes. But perhaps one day I'll work less hours. If I could go back in time, would I do it all over again? Go through med school, residency, and become a pediatrician all over again? Yes. So when people ask me, would I go back and do this all over again? Here is my very convoluted answer.
Do I get burnout in my job as an internal medicine hospitalist? The answer is sometimes, yes, but probably not for the reason that you would think. It's actually not because of the volume of hours worked or even the odd hours worked. I have a pretty decent schedule in terms of hours that I work in a month. So when I'm on wards, it can be a lot of hours. I can be doing not much else besides working, and sometimes I even work weekends. But I know that probably the next week, I'm going to have a really chill week and I'm going to make up for it. I'm going to sleep and I'm going to do all my life stuff, and it just really balances out. So I would say for my volume worked, no, I don't get burnout. If there's one thing that does burn me out though, it is navigating a non-functioning healthcare system while taking care of patients who do not have a lot of resources. The vast majority of my patients either don't have health insurance, they have Medicaid health insurance, and they're in a Medicaid HMO, which is most of the time incredibly difficult to deal with. I feel like half the time I am bending over backwards just to get my patients basic care, like basic outpatient follow-up, the bare necessities when it comes to needed medications. And so a lot of times just trying to work with the insurance companies, the case managers, the social workers to get patients what, in my medical opinion, think they actually need feels like it's clawing my way uphill. But until we have a universal system, there's going to be people who are in these insurance plans that don't want to pay for stuff easily. I'm not sure that's unique to hospital medicine, though. In fact, I'm sure it's not unique to hospital medicine. I think you'd find that in a lot of specialties. It's a function of the healthcare system. I'm not sure it's a function of just being in my particular role as a hospitalist, but I hope this helps.
For anyone who wants to be a surgeon, this is my advice to you. Don't do it. If there is literally anything else in this world that interests you in the slightest bit and you could see yourself doing it for the rest of your life, do that. And before you go there, yes, I love what I do. Did I have any idea what I was getting myself into? Hell no. So after you spend 8 years busting your ass to become a doctor, you realize that you start residency and you're literally nobody and you literally know nothing. Then you have 5+ more years. And let me be honest with you, working 80 hours a week is not work-life balance. There is literally no work-life balance in surgery training. I don't do this by choice. I do this because this is literally the only way to become a surgeon. Spending this many of your years of your life training, this much time of your life working is borderline psychotic. No, it's actually just straight psychotic. It's not borderline. And then when you realize how insignificant your knowledge base is, no matter how much you learn over the span of your life compared to what there is to know about medicine.
So why are people, specifically doctors, leaving medicine? Well, being a doctor who's been in practice for the last at least 10 to 15 years, I would say that the medical industry in the world has changed dramatically, and not in a good way for doctors and healthcare providers. When I initially applied to medical school and decided to go into training to become a physician, I was under this impression that I was going to go through all this training, I was going to make all these sacrifices, and that at the end of it, I was going to add value to our society. I was going to be somebody who could take care of their community, who could make a real difference in the world. But in reality, it did not turn out to be like that at all. And I'm not saying I regret my decision of becoming a doctor, but I wish I knew a lot of this prior to going into training. Because once you commit to the medical world and being a physician, there's really no turning back, because it really starts off with the debt, the student loans. So most people, including myself, graduate from medical school with at least $300,000 to $500,000 in debt, student loans from just becoming a doctor and just from training to become a doctor. And so I don't think people realize how much in debt you go into as a physician in training. After the debt and getting through the debt and all of that that's associated with the training, you are also giving up the majority of your 20s and some of your 30s, depending on the specialty that you choose. So what does this mean? Undergrad, I did for 4 years. Medical school, I did for 4 years. And then you go into residency. My residency as an internal medicine physician was 3 years. So if you calculate that out from 18 until my early 30s, I was in training and really sacrificing a lot of my life. So most of my friends in this time period in their 20s and 30s are traveling, are starting their families, they're getting married, they're making great money in their jobs and in their careers, whereas us physicians are still in training, making probably less than minimum wage based on how many hours working in our residency program, and not able to start our lives until later in life, comparatively speaking to a lot of our peers and our friends. I'm seeing a lot of people leave the medical world altogether. A lot of physicians, I actually know a handful of doctors who are no longer practicing as physicians anymore because they're like, it is just not worth it. It has now become more corporate. Now everyone is replaceable. It seems like it doesn't matter. We're just another number. And if you're a hospitalist or if you're working for a healthcare system and you're not meeting your quotas or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing or you are not seeing enough patients, that it's just like, bye, everyone's replaceable, you're just a number. So we went into this career thinking, if I go into debt, if I sacrifice my 20s and my 30s, if I do all of this, it's going to be worth it because I'm going to be adding value and contributing to society in a good way. When in reality, that's not what's happening. Doctors have become numbers and we're just kind of thrown aside like everyone's replaceable. We don't get to make decisions anymore. And most decisions are made by insurance companies and what's covered and what they're willing to pay for. So even if we feel like a treatment is best for a patient, if they say it's not, then it's not. So it's become more complicated than that. So most physicians are just burned out, not feeling like they're really needed or doing what they really set out to do, and that is to make a difference and to do good by people. So yeah, I think that that's why a lot of people are leaving medicine, specifically doctors, and not that I'm going to be leaving, but I do certainly understand why a lot of them have chosen to leave medicine.
Okay, do you want to know why people are quitting medicine? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what happened to my clinic today, and maybe it'll give you a glimpse of what's going on. I'm an orthopedic trauma surgeon. My name is Dr. Neelafar Dagan, and I had a very difficult clinic today. I had a patient that I operated on, and he had a bad complication, and I took the time. I had to sit there with him, explain to him what's going on, go over his results, go over our plan, what we're going to do, answer all his questions. And that takes time. And that's my job, to get my patients through a difficult scenario or when there's a complication. And after that interaction, I felt really bad because I genuinely feel bad about my patients when they're not doing well. And right afterwards, I had to see another patient who, at this point, I was running behind because I had to spend so much time with my patient with a complication. So obviously I was late to this other next patient's appointment. And this lady was just so bitter and so unhappy. She just, the whole time she was just saying how, I don't know why I'm here. Why am I here? Why am I seeing you? I'm wasting my time. And I tried to explain that, well, you had a hip fracture and I fixed it. And these are your x-rays. Looks like you're doing well. And not only was she so ungrateful, but she made me feel like absolute crap. She basically said she hopes she never has to come here again, that I completely wasted her time, that it was completely worthless for her to come to clinic today. And while I can appreciate her being angry because she had to wait an extra half hour to see me, for you to berate me like that and treat me like that, I just can't take anymore. I have patients who come that I've helped through difficult times and they're grateful, and I have patients that are not grateful. And to be honest, I go to work every day, I do my job, I fix patients' fractures, I help them, whether they know it or not. For you to come to clinic and say it was a complete waste of your time, you hope you never have to see me again, and not acknowledge the fact that you had an injury and I fixed it, and I don't even need thanks. I just need you to treat me with some respect, like basic respect that you would give your air conditioning person who comes and fixes your air conditioner. Pretty sure you wouldn't yell at them out the door and say you are ungrateful, you hope you never have to see them again. At least have the courtesy to say thank you, or just not say anything at all. But for you to come and yell at me and scream at me when I'm trying to do my best, I just can't take it anymore. And I couldn't take it anymore. I basically, I left my clinic. I just, it's just so difficult being in medicine these days. There's so many pressures on you from the hospital, the administration, the patient's family, my own family. I'm trying to look after my own children and my own family. And it's just nice to be known that people appreciate what you do, or just be neutral, but just have some common decency. Don't go to a clinic to a doctor who's treating you and be rude. I mean, it's just common courtesy. So thanks for listening.
Why becoming a doctor is not worth it. I'm Dr. Joe Moss. Let's talk about why a career in medicine might not be worth the effort. Number one, the long and expensive education. The road to becoming a doctor is long and costly. It involves at least 4 years of undergraduate education, 4 years of medical school, and 3 to 7 years of residency, depending on which specialty you go into. The cost of medical school has soared over the last couple of decades, and many physicians graduate with significant debt. To put things into perspective, in the 1990s, the average medical school debt was around $30,000 to $50,000. Today, it's common for graduates to finish with $200,000 to $300,000 in student loans, and this sharp increase in tuition has not just outpaced inflation, but it's outpaced physician compensation as well. Number two, stress and burnout. The medical profession is highly demanding both mentally and emotionally. Medical residency in particular, which is a structure of training that is based on a system established over a century ago, almost entirely neglects our growing understanding of the need for work-life balance, mental health support, and the damaging effects sleep deprivation has on our physical and psychological health. If we know that after being awake for more than 18 hours, sustained attention, concentration, fine motor skills, reaction time, and coordination begin to degrade, then why does such an archaic system remain? I can tell you which groups this benefits, and it's most definitely not our patients. Number three, an increasingly regulated healthcare system. Doctors today now have to navigate a relentlessly complex and bureaucratic system. We must deal with insurance companies, regulations, and administrative tasks that take precious time away from patient care. We are at a point in history where insurance companies run by non-clinicians often dictate which medications and therapies a patient can be prescribed. This diminishing autonomy is what many doctors who are burnt out cite as a major reason for wanting to leave the profession. So here are my thoughts. Think long and hard about a career in medicine if you're considering it. You should only go into medicine for the right reasons. Do not become a doctor for money, prestige, or reverence. There are only 2 reasons anyone should be going into medicine, and those are, first, to help people, and secondly, to help implement change in our deeply flawed healthcare system.
Back in the 80s, you can see that most doctors were self-employed, almost 20%, see? And now, in the 2020s, we're up to 60 to almost 80% of physicians employed by the hospital or corporate system. Next, everyone's favorite is insurance denials, an inhibition to make payments for the work done. So you can see there was almost nothing tracked back in the 80s, almost 0 denials, even though there were, and now up to almost, look right here, almost 20%, 1 in 5 claims are denied nowadays. This is another thing that's crazy. Even physicians who actually get claims approved, a lot of those claims that are approved, almost up to 10% at times are unpaid, even if they're owed the payment. Next is malpractice. Malpractice has gone up significantly in the last several decades, almost up to 700 suits. Good news, of the last decade it dropped a little bit, but the ability to practice medicine without fear of litigation has also gone down. The fear is higher. Ooh. And our malpractice premiums have also increased precipitously as well. So what does all this mean? Well, practicing medicine comes with inherent stress, right? Life and death. There's a lot to learn, a lot to study. It takes a lot of hours. Patients are going through difficult situations, right? That is all part of, nothing's new there, right? That's the cost of practicing, right? But there's also a lot of value we get. We get to connect with patients in their most valuable moments. They come to us when they need like a learned friend or a trusted resource so we can help them in their desperate times. We can cure and help cure disease. We can provide care. We can comfort. There's a great lifestyle that comes with it. There's a good earning potential that comes with it, right? All of these things have always been the trade-offs, right? All of the value matches the stress, because I'm going to make the argument that has really not that much to do with reimbursement or payment, even though it does have to do with being able to like pay staff, et cetera, cover your expenses. But what's gone down is right here. It is autonomy, because the gap between the value derived from practicing medicine and the stress that it causes is covered by autonomy, right? We're willing to step in the gap. We're willing to do the things we need to do when we have the autonomy to make the decisions to do those things. But look, over the last several decades, when our autonomy gap was only a 3 minimally, but then we had managed care come in the 90s, and then EHR came along in the payer rules, and EHR, the rules that we have to follow to maintain the guidelines of this has only increased our burden and decreased our autonomy. And now burnout is almost at 63%, because the autonomy that we have to practice medicine is so low. So forget burnout. It's not having any control or autonomy. That's the problem. That's why your physician's going to quit.
Hey guys, my name's Annika. I'm a resident physician. I have been posting on TikTok for years about my experience in medical school and then my transition to residency. I wanted to announce that I have decided to leave general surgery residency. However, I am transitioning now to internal medicine residency. I wanted to take the time to explain why I left, and it's just taken me a while to actually make the video, because at first I wasn't ready to talk about it. It was obviously a lot to go through. I was struggling a lot to come to terms with the decision that I felt that I had chosen the wrong specialty. And now that I have finally made the transition over, I am ready to kind of talk about it. This might be a little lengthy, but I'm just gonna focus on why I switched. So in med school, I rotated on surgery pretty early on. It was my second rotation of my 3rd year, and I fell in love with it. I really loved the pace. I liked being in the operating room. I liked the creativity that happened within an operation. I loved that there was a lot of anatomy, and I loved the surgical patients and the conditions that we would deal with on a daily basis. I think that I paid a little bit less mind to how much I liked some of the other rotations I did. wanted, particularly medicine, which was at the very end of my third year. So I did my sub-Is, I applied for surgery, I was really excited about it. Intern year began, and I first want to say that I am so grateful to the program that I was in because we got a lot of operative experience. I was doing cases that were not just intern level cases, but I got to experience things that were advanced beyond my level. As I got to operate a lot, I didn't feel excited about it. Part of that was because I was starting to realize that maybe I didn't love being in the operating room anymore. And part of that was clouded by being extremely burnt out and depressed. I was not in a good place at all. Adjusting to this new level of working, all the hours, all the things that you would see on a daily basis, it just really burns you out. On top of that, being in the operating room all the time, I wished I were not in the OR and I wished I was on the floor with my patients. I really miss being with my team on the floor. I compared myself to my co-residents who were always so excited to get into a case for the day, to learn from being in the operating room. And I just did not feel the same way. I started to get really scared because switching specialties is not easy, and I honestly wouldn't recommend it. On top of that, I was just absolutely miserable, to be quite honest with you. I ended up talking to my program, and they were so supportive of me, kind of helped me figure out what is it that I wanted to go into. And that took a lot of time. I had decided that internal medicine would be the fit for me. I think my surgery program gave me the absolute abundance of experience that I needed to feel what it would feel like to be a surgeon and be in the operating room and take care of surgical problems. And because of that experience, I felt more confident in the decision that I made, because I would have been worried about making a decision based off of an intern year of solely scut work and something that wasn't representative of what it's like to be in surgery. After I made that decision, it was like a weight was lifted off of my shoulders. I can now say, being on the other side of things, that I feel so happy and I feel like I have purpose.
I'm a family physician, and today's the last day that I'm ever going to be seeing patients in this office because I quit. And I couldn't sleep. I woke up at 4 a.m. and you would think that I'm like super excited, but I really just feel like a failure. I know I'm not. I know I'm not a failure. I know that the system failed me. 2 nights ago, even though I had a month left, I realized I just simply could not do it anymore. I couldn't even stomach 4 more weeks of this job. And I basically needed to get out effective immediately. I filmed a video about me pondering all that and like wanting to send the email and not knowing what to do. And the next day I had therapy in the morning and I was doing okay. But then as soon as I started talking about this, I started hysterical crying. And all I could think was, I just can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. And one of the things that is really difficult, that I was having a difficult time with in therapy, is that I've been through so much in my life. I've stuck through so much shit. And I've just been like, just a little bit more. You can do it. Just a little bit more. And that's what this was supposed to be. It was like, okay, 1 more month. You've got 1 more month. But I don't want to overcome it anymore. I don't want to. I want to be gone. And the only reason to keep staying is for my patients and to not get dinged by the medical board for abandoning patients, and to not just like make any money at all, even though I'm going to be paying the overhead, and I'm also going to be paying the salary of whatever physician takes over my schedule in the meantime. But I don't care. I was in the office on Monday and I was so angry, and I've been angry for a really long time. But like at this point, basically knowing that I'm leaving, every single time I walked into a patient room and they were projecting something onto me, or like it just sort of felt like you're going through a divorce and somebody's shouting at you and trying to get an emotion out of you and you're just dead inside. I don't want to be dead inside. But I basically just kept telling myself that I'm weak if I can't just stick it out 4 more weeks. I'm weak. What the is that about? So what? I don't want to do it. And I don't understand why society, especially medicine, makes it seem like you're just a weak if you cannot take abuse for this long. Like you should be able to do it, and like you're a weak-minded person. All right, I'm a weak-minded person then. I don't care. I don't care. And honestly, for the past 8 years I've been working so hard to like not be like this. Like literally since residency started, it's been horrible. And I've been like burnt out for almost a decade. And basically throughout the entire time, the way that we're gaslit in medicine is like, you just need to learn to let things roll off your back. You need to learn how to not let things get to you. And like, by my estimation, the only way for that to happen is for you to just stop giving a at all. And I think that's what happens with most physicians, is if you want to keep going, you cannot give any because if you do, you're going to be like me and just crying every night. I know that's an overgeneralization. I'm sure there's much more strong-minded people out there. So like, whatever, you're so amazing, good for you. I'm not capable of this. But I was trying to hold on as long as possible to stay in this job to pay off my debt to them, which is over $150,000, which I will now have to pay back. But here's what I'm struggling with right now. I basically knew I couldn't see patients anymore like a long time ago because I literally have trauma response going into work and I get really angry inside. And like, the reason why I was holding on was, I don't know, I kind of just feel like everybody looks at me like I'm such a drama queen, like, get over it, and I can't. Even when I was telling our administrators yesterday that I just couldn't do it anymore, I basically just kept thinking to myself, they don't believe me. They think I'm just like just a lazy person, or I don't know. Basically, it's like, to what end would I just completely quit my job that I've worked so hard for, that I owe $150,000 to, that I have thousands of patients that need me, that my partners, like, I quit and I'm putting a lot of stuff on my partners because I'm leaving, and I'm staying because I don't want people to think that I'm just being a drama queen. Like, what the?
So the numbers really do tell a story. Let's go ahead and look at some of the recent data. Right now, it's looking like 35% of doctors have thought about quitting clinical practice within the next year, with burnout as the top reason. And there are some older studies that also show the trend of physicians leaving practice rising significantly over time. And also, career satisfaction has plummeted. Right now, only 57.1% of physicians would still choose medicine if given the choice again. So that means that there are 40% that are unsure or are saying no, they would not enter this field again. So why does this matter? Well, there are several reasons, but obviously with fewer doctors, if more are starting to walk away, fewer doctors mean that there's going to be less healthcare to more rural areas, especially, and also underserved populations. And when that happens, there's going to be an even more stress on a fragile healthcare system right now, because there are a lot of problems that are going on within the healthcare industry. And then, of course, doctors are saying that they are experiencing burnout. Burnout is something that really is being experienced across fields of all disciplines. And a lot of it is because just the way that things are going with the world. I mean, there's not just even pressures amongst work, but there's the pressures in life. I think that has a lot to do with it. And also, there just continues to be inadequate support, a lot more bureaucracy. There's a lot of things that are changing that is causing people to feel this burnout much more often and much more quicker than even in previous years or previous decades. And realistically, many doctors love the patients, but they don't love the system. And unfortunately, it's pushing a lot of them out right now. So what do you think? Share your thoughts and comments down below. It is unfortunate. I wish that there weren't so many people feeling this burnout just across the board, everywhere. Teachers, nurses, doctors, people in, law enforcement. I mean, there's just so much that's going on. But this is kind of where we are finding ourselves now in 2026 and the past several years. But again, share your thoughts down below. What do you think? I hope that you're doing well. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Take care.